Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, let me confirm that before I say it, July 23rd edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell, as we're gearing up here in downtown and throughout the city for the 2025 Lowell Folk Festival taking place this weekend. Hope to see you all in our downtown, and we're glad to have you here for the Daily Pulse, and we're glad to have our special guests here on today's Daily Pulse. You know the guy to the left of your screen over there, he's my regular Wednesday co-host when he doesn't blow me off for another appointment or social engagement. Former Lowell mayor, former Lowell city councilor, former Lowell headmaster, so many formers, but currently,
but still here.
One of Lowell's foremost political pundits, Bill 𝐉𝐚𝐻𝐿, joining us here in the WellPoint Studios.
Good morning.
Welcome back, Mr. Mayor. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And off to the mayor's right is a guy who, well, he's familiar to Lowellians and now very familiar to folks in Chelmsford. Long overdue to be here. I apologize for not having him here sooner.
Happy to come.
Chelmsford School Superintendent 𝐉𝐚𝐲 𝐿 is with us today.
Happy to come today.
Great to have you here. I had the town manager here a couple of weeks ago. He was long overdue. Mr. 𝐉𝐚𝐲 said, you got to get 𝐉𝐚𝐲 in. He was 100% correct. And we got a lot to talk about, including I found a bunch of information in 2026 fiscal year budget that was surprising to me. As somebody who lives in the town, and my kids will eventually be attending those schools, it was kind of interesting to see. So I want to talk a little bit about that and education in general. We're going to start the discussion with Superintendent 𝐉𝐚𝐲, former Mayor 𝐉𝐚𝐻𝐿, in a quick second. First, let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsors. Of course, you know about Ray Booten. He is a licensed realtor in Massachusetts. He is a certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, you need to be in touch with Ray Booten. He is the call you need to make. You can find him easily enough online at realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint, the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. And WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thank you to WellPoint. Thanks to Ray. Some other sponsors that we'll thank as well in a little bit, but let's get to our discussion with Superintendent 𝐉𝐚𝐲 and former Mayor 𝐉𝐚𝐻𝐿. Before we get into the education issues, I just want to ask you a question. You mentioned off air you didn't see the Lowell City Council meeting last night.
I did not.
Where the Lowell School Superintendent had a spirited, would that be the right word to use, Mr. 𝐉𝐚𝐻𝐿?
As good as any.
Spirited back and forth with a number of the city councilors. I was surprised at how adversarial it was on a night where the city council was basically acquiescing to giving back $2 million that some folks think was unfairly taken, $4 million unfairly taken. But putting that aside, I've seen superintendents have good back and forth with school committees, and they get, they get feisty at times. That's direct boss employee relationship. I don't think I've ever seen it with a superintendent and the town side of it. Have you ever had to go before the Board of Selectmen in Chelmsford and kind of have a back and forth like that?
So I did not see the meeting last night. I would say in Chelmsford the dynamic is a little bit different because our town manager is more responsible for proposing budget and working with the different department heads to prepare the budget for the following year. So we do meet with the select board, we meet with the finance committee and the school committee, we call it tri-board, a couple of times a year to just talk about financial goals and the direction of the town. Sometimes those meetings, I wouldn't say contentious, but they're direct with regard to funding of priorities or kind of, who would like to see what happen with available funding. But the dynamic in Chelmsford is the superintendent wouldn't have a need to go and talk before the select board about budget. Our work would be more with the town manager.
Has there ever been a scenario where you felt the town shortchanged the schools and you've had to go and advocate for additional monies, or is that done usually before both the town and the school budgets are presented for approval?
Paul and I try to work Paul Cohen, the town manager, try to work very closely on overall budget for the town. Obviously, he's responsible for all the town departments and works with the department heads, putting the budget together as best he sees fit. I'm there advocating for the schools and what our needs in the schools are, but we typically try to come to consensus around what the budget number would be. I think everyone's advocating for their department and their needs and trying to make the best pitch. In the end, usually we come together and say, listen, as a town, there needs to be one number, and how can we make this work so that, Chelmsford does value public safety, DPW, buildings, and schools, I think, are the three kind of pillars of the budget in the community. And we try to make sure that we have a unified voice in the end around what the number should be that we ultimately bring to town meeting. So we don't have a city council. We ultimately go to town meeting in the spring, which is a representative group of residents who have to approve our budget. So again, I've been very fortunate over the 10 years that I've been there that those town meetings have been, residents ask a lot of good questions. We give them straightforward answers, and they've been very supportive of the school budgets. I think this past year when we presented the budget, and it was about $75.5 million, $75.6 million. I think our budget passed. It was like 121 to 2 or something like that. So it was, very well.
That's almost unanimous.
Almost unanimous. We've had pretty unanimous votes on our budget, our funding for capital projects for the schools. So no, Chelmsford, I have to say, is really pretty cohesive on that part. Again, you may have differences of opinions and you have differences you want to make a claim to, but in the end, we've always come together to do what's best for the community.
But I can say, I mean, Jay worked in Lowell, and he was always a consensus builder. And I think it's important that, I mean, you build consensus, but you build consensus by providing good information. That's one thing, Jay, you always did.
Thank you.
And,
Good information or not, I'm not sure in Lowell you could get a 121 to 2 vote on whether water is wet.
well, the thing is, you just have to work at it. It has to be consistent. And the thing is, the people that you're working with, like whether it's the council or it's the public, they have to know that the information you're providing them is accurate as it can be, and you have your goals are for the betterment of the system, and it works.
Did you ever, you served on a number of councils and you
Yeah.
served as the mayor where you had to chair both the council and the school committee.
Yes.
I don't remember you having a back and forth with the school superintendent on the council floor. Now, you had your back and forth with the superintendent. You
Yeah.
helped fire one and whatnot. You got sued by one when you were the mayor, but you were serving on the school committee.
But
I don't remember ever.
We won that case, by the way.
You did. Did it ever happen on the council floor, though? Have you ever seen that with the school superintendent and counselors?
Not really that contentious. The one thing is, when I was mayor, that's the one thing I tried to control, that the exchange between the school committee or the city council, and the superintendent's office. I mean, you have to work at it. But the issue is, sometimes it can be a daunting task to come before a city council or a school committee. But the thing is, realizing that it's not an easy thing, you have to be prepared and well prepared, and you should be well. And the thing is, I know I've been accused of being sometimes a little contentious under certain circumstances. Jay will. He will agree with
Well, at least
that.
he's admitting it now.
Yeah.
That's
He made your job more difficult.
did.
But no. But the issue is, when superintendents come before to make a presentation, they have to realize that it's not an easy situation, and just deal with the facts and be straightforward, and things will work out. If you're contentious, it can be problematic. Maybe not that night, but in the future.
Long term, and that's
Long term,
We'll have lots
it's not
of
a good
Wednesdays to
situation.
talk about that, especially
Yeah.
once the election is done and we see some new faces on there.
Yeah.
We did determine. So you were the number 2 kind of at the Lowell School Department while he was working there, right, and
very
on the
closely
council.
with him, yes.
But you also divulged before I hit the record button that he was actually his first year as headmaster.
Yes, we found this out years later. My year that I graduated from high school was his first year as headmaster of Lowell High School, class of 91.
Was it one of those years where he had the curly hair, or
I don't
did he
recall.
abandon that?
I had more here.
He had more hair.
A little darker.
You'll settle for curly or any kind of hair
Absolutely.
at this point. All right, let's talk about Chelmsford schools and what. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but the first thing that jumped out to me, and I want to call up this slide here. This is in your 2026 budget, and general demographic data, total enrollment, you're at about 5,130 students. Economic disadvantage, I assume, percentage of students that have been economic disadvantage. Surprised that the number's that high in Chelmsford. I thought we were a ritzy community that I had moved to.
No, well, the demographic in Chelmsford has been changing. Even in the 10 years that I've been there, these numbers have definitely moved a little bit. I think on the economically disadvantaged, it's called that now. It used to be called students who would qualify for, say, free and reduced lunch. But the government kind of got away from that marker, and now they're using economically disadvantaged. But that has actually, I'm going to estimate, increased 4 or 5% just after the last 10 years or so. So we definitely have a shifting population, a shifting demographic in town.
Is some of that to do with the fact that those hotels in Chelmsford Center have started to be used as shelters, or
no? I honestly don't think so, because that's more kind of transient. That's not like permanent. This is actually just, I think, a lot of shifting in the population. You do have in Chelmsford some of the more senior residents as they're selling properties, and we're starting to see this. We've had a lot of residents who have maybe been in a home, 2, 3, 4 bedroom home, and they're deciding to downsize and move out. Newer, younger families are moving in to the communities. They have kids now. This homes are starting to re-enroll in the district that hadn't previously. So we're definitely, unlike other communities, we're actually having an enrollment increase where a lot of districts are actually declining. I think our latest projection had us increasing about 600 students over the next 10 years, which is pretty significant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very significant.
For a town our size.
These times.
That's
Yeah.
20% of your 5,000
Correct.
student body. So
But that's been a number that has been changing. I think you had made mention also of the ELS, students English language learner number.
I highlighted that one. That's the third highest number in your comparables.
And that's also doubled in the last 10 years. So we've gone from about 125 to 150 L students. These are second language learners, to about 300 now in the district. A lot of that, again, is, shifting demographic, new individuals moving into the community. But we have about 300 students who are classified as L that we're now educating in Chelmsford.
Anyway, the comps themselves, that's the other thing that jumped out at me. Like, I guess I get Tewksbury, I probably get North Andover, some of the other communities I don't know enough about to make an educated guess, but Andover and Newton?
Right.
Chelmsford is not Andover, and it's 100% not Newton. Andover,
Are you sure?
Think they're
Are you
Newton,
sure?
but, that was stunning to me to see that those are your comps. But who establishes those?
Yeah, we don't come up with those. And I actually don't agree with a couple of those comps, just because, I mean, we always look at our local regional comps. We look at the Merrimack Valley. How is Chelmsford stacking up against, Andover, North Andover, Billerica, Tewksbury, Tingsboro, Lowell to some extent just because of the geography, but those are our regional comps. But the state every year comes up with your 10 most comparable districts statewide. And what they look at is demographics, shift in demographics. They look at the overall enrollment, your grade level configuration, and they try to find your 10 most comparable school districts. Performance is also a factor. So in Chelmsford, we have a high-performing school district. So performance-wise, we are on par with your Andovers and Newtons and districts like that. So that's all taken into the mix as well. But yeah, that is something that every year it comes out. And I am a little surprised. Like, I was surprised Newton jumped into it. We had up to this past year, Burlington was one of our comps, which I didn't completely agree with either, just based on the tax base that they have and the business base. It's just nothing comparable to like a town. But I was surprised to see Newton jump in.
I'm stunned. The one that stuns me is the W in there is Wakefield and not Westford. I would think Westford would be a natural comp for Chelmsford, but apparently the state's metrics say no.
The state may, yeah, they say no. Again, that could be, and I don't know enough about Westford, it could be the configuration of their schools, because when you are taking a look at the academic standings, you need to make sure that you're comparing to other schools. Our elementary schools are grades K to 4, and then middle school is 5 to 8, and high school is obviously 9 to 12. But a lot of other districts might have like a K2, 3, 4, or 3, 5. So you have to be also matched based on how your students are doing performance-wise. But these are the comps. We don't come up with them on our own. The state does them every year. I would say 8 out of the 10 stay pretty consistent, and then every year there might be a different one that pops in. Like I said, Newton popped in this year, Burlington popped out, but next year it'll be a different group. But we don't get to pick those. So what I always do for the school committees when we're putting our budget book together, we always just try to take a look at trend data and just see how we're actually stacking up statewide compared to our comps. We know within the Merrimack Valley we're doing, very well. On our state comps, we want to, we're never going to be necessarily number one, but we'd love to be in that top third of districts. We certainly always want to hover at least around the midpoint. And when we start to dip into the bottom third is when we have to have the serious talk about, are we allocating enough resources to really meet the desires that we have as a community toward education.
And that's the other part that surprised me in the discussion with Paul Cohen a couple of weeks ago. He mentioned just how much of Chelmsford's school budget is funded by the town directly, and it's an incredibly high number. Could be as high as 80%.
Yeah, it's. I mean, overall, the town budget as well as the school budgets, 70 to 80% are derived from the tax base and from real revenue that's coming directly into the town, and the opposite are coming in from, say, the state funding and things like that. We don't receive significant funds in unrestricted aid or Chapter 70. It's the complete flip flop for, say, like a Lowell, where 90 to 80 to 90% of your funding is coming from the state, and the rest is coming from the municipality. Chelmsford is the other. That actually helps us when it comes to budgeting, because we actually start our budget in the fall, and I present a budget to the school committee in January that we can kind of fix on, because I know when the state budget finally comes out, the variable is so insignificant. If it's off by $50,000 or $100,000 in a $75 million budget, that's not a big thing. Where in Lowell, we used to have to wait until May to basically set our budget, because the volatility at the state level, ultimately affecting Chapter 70, was much more significant.
Is it so you hear this back and forth? I've heard a number of people tell Lowell public officials, "You're lucky the state is funding this and that." Of course, Lowell officials will tell you, "Well, yeah, because we're dealing with XYZ."
Right.
You've worked at it on both sides. Is the formula broken? The state education funding formula, is it broken, as some folks would say, or is it kind of making the best of what it has to do? And towns like Chelmsford, Andover, et cetera, have to deal with the realities, because Lowell, Lawrence, et cetera, are in a completely different set of realities, and the state needs to help them. How do you view that now as the Chelmsford school superintendent?
Well, I'd love more money to come for Chelmsford. I think people acknowledge that the funding formula does have its flaws. I think people can point to things that work for them in their communities and things that they would like to have changed. The problem is, whenever you go fooling around with, or if you want to reconstruct the formula, you're going to negatively impact someone to positively impact someone else. And if all you're doing is taking the same pie and basically just redistributing it, you don't have enough momentum to really, make significant change. There has been task force that have looked at Chapter 70 funding formulas and different changes. The Student Opportunity Act is going to be going into, I believe, year 7 of its implementation. That was really earmarked toward providing additional funding to urban communities. So suburban communities really were not positively impacted in large by the Student Opportunity Act, but that was certainly benefiting your Lowells and Lawrences and Holyoaks, things along those communities. They saw significant increases in Chapter 70. So to be honest with you, a little jealous. I wish I had some of the Chapter 70 money when I was here, because I was here during some tough times. 2008, 2009 was some pretty significant times when we had to do layoffs. We never seemed to have the resources at those times. At the same time, I will tell you, the population in Lowell is significantly needier than the population that I'm working with in Chelmsford. And a community's ability to pay and, kind of desire to pay for education also factors into this as well.
But I can remember a time when there were discussions that the state should just pay for education for all communities. It should be one set. In other words, there was a time when the formula was really being discussed, And there were some people interested in saying, we'll never come out with a formula that everybody will agree upon.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the thing is,
Newton's not gonna be funded at the same,
So-
number as Lowell and
so at this
on and so
point,
forth.
why not have the education be paid for by the state? But
Yeah, but
that was
you're also going to have
discussed,
communities,
but not.
if they have the
not-
ability to
yeah.
pay, they're not going to be restricted. They're not going to be held back, and they're going to put extra funding.
No matter what.
And other districts.
You're
may
right.
not be able
That
to.
was the point
So
that was
that's-
brought up.
That's the hard part.
So you'll
Yeah.
never get that.
Yeah.
Well,
Right. There is discussion about taking another look at it, and something is going to have to happen legislatively after the last year of the Student Opportunity Act goes into play next year. But I don't know necessarily if it'll be a wholesale change. It'll probably be more tweaking around the edges.
Are you looking at the elimination of the Department of Education on a federal level as apocalyptic? Might it be an opportunity, as some have argued, to bring more of the quote unquote money being spent on bureaucracy in Washington into the states and by extension into cities and towns like a Chelmsford?
We'll see. I think everyone is just kind of holding at this point to see what actually happens. I mean, the important thing for our district in Chelmsford is that the funding gets to us, whether it comes from DOE or if it comes from another entity. If it's getting to us and we're able to use it to service our students, I'm a little less concerned where it's coming from. We can only control locally what we can control. So, one of the things that we are dealing with now, I know Lowell will be dealing with as well, is some of the funds for next year not being released. So certain grant funds at the federal level aren't going to be released. On a positive note, Title I funding and IDEA, which supports special education students, those are going to be released to a pretty similar level in fiscal 25 over fiscal 26. However, we are hearing, say, some of your discretionary entitlement grants like Title III, some of your teacher quality grants, those are going to have significant impacts on, for Chelmsford, it's about a $200,000 cumulative loss for the year. But in Lowell, you're talking millions. So those grant programs are certainly going to have an impact locally.
Well, 200,000 in a 70, would you say 75?
75 and a half.
$75.5 million budget. Again, it's small, but that's a significant number, though. You're gonna.
It's significant, and we're going to have to kind of dig deep and look and see how we were using those resources to make sure, can we do something a little different? Is there another avenue in the local budget? Because I don't want to just, as much as the hurt is there, and we have to deal with that cut, I don't want to necessarily just add another $200,000 of impact on our local budget to then start at a bigger deficit going into 27. So these are things our school committee actually talked a little bit about last night. Where is that $200,000? Where was it earmarked? What was it going to be used for? What is the impact for the students going to be? Can we mitigate that in any way and figure out how we actually then move forward?
We're chatting with Jay Lang, Chelmsford School Superintendent. He's joining us here in the WellPoint Studios, along with former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras, our regular Wednesday co-host. We're going to continue the discussion, and we're going to delve into some numbers that also were a little surprising to me. First, let me thank all of my Daily Pulse sponsors: Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to WellPoint at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire for Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire families since 1925. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to insure its most valuable assets since 1982. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, they're bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. Final game of the 2025 season for the Pirates is this Friday night, 2 nights from tonight at the Tsongas Center. Grab your tickets. If you want some free tickets, I got a bunch I can give away here from Inside Lowell. Shoot me an email, teddypanos@insidelowell.com, or just send an email to info@insidelowell.com, and we'll make sure you can go see the Pirates. Exciting brand of football over there. All right, we're back with Jay Lang, Bill Samaras. So let me get back to my handy dandy slides here if we can, and we see the comps. Let's look at some of the numbers within those comps. These are the towns that you're being compared to. You don't have a choice in who these towns are. The state does it for you, but right there, student-teacher ratio.
Yep. So this is one.
You're at the bottom. You
We're
must
at the
not like
bottom.
that number.
No. So this is one that we're obviously certainly looking to make some progress on. It's a little bit of a tough one to just judge. So obviously our classrooms don't have 13.4 kids in them.
Thank you for clarifying. If that's the case, our school system
Right.
is insane. That's including paras and specialists,
no.
right?
So what that's doing is actually just taking your total student population, dividing it by your licensed teaching staff in the building. So you have general ed classes. Our general ed classes at the elementary grade level have between 18 and 22 students in the class. At the upper elementary through early middle school, it's probably 22 to 24, 25. Ironically, at our high school level, our class sizes are actually even a little bit less. So it could be anywhere between, 18 and, 24. So we have, I think, very reasonable class sizes. But that actually takes all of your general ed students, all of your special education students, and it just takes the total number of teachers you employ that are licensed and divides them to just come up with some type of a comparable. So even when you look at your other districts, they don't have 11.1 students.
I knew Newton was rich, but man, that's
Right.
But still, that's a number where you don't want to be in the, forget the bottom third.
No.
You're at the bottom of that, right, in your comps?
We're at the bottom of that one. However, again, the difference between the numbers is not a huge number. And when I actually then go look at what our actual class sizes are, I think 18 to 22 overall are very attractive class sizes.
And it also depends how the number of special needs students that they have and in some of the other systems.
We happen to operate a lot of in-district programming
Yeah.
for special education students, so we're actually keeping a lot of special ed students from Chelmsford in Chelmsford receiving an education, where a lot of other communities might actually put students in out-of-district placements, whether they're at collaboratives or private schools. So that also, kind of factors into how many students you actually then have that are working with teachers.
Okay. So from that, let's take a look at what are these teachers getting paid in Chelmsford? And this one surprised me as well. You're again
so we're in the bottom third of this
third.
one. And what's interesting on this, this is something that has been pretty consistent, where we've been trying to kind of move to the middle on this one. As a district, we're actually very attractive, and we're like number one or two. It's Chelmsford and Andover at the first step coming into the district, all the way up to step 5, which is another increment, and then top step in our district. Our top step teachers at step 12 were actually, comparatively speaking, lagging behind some of their counterparts. And we have 52% of our teachers who are on top step. So that number is being skewed a little bit because over half of our population are on the top step, and we know the top step is actually not making the comparable with where we'd like it to be. So we actually just negotiated contracts with all of our unions. We came to agreement right towards the end of June. And one of the things we did on that, so this is going to start to kind of creep towards the middle a little bit over the next couple of years. We did a staggered contract, a staggered salary grid. So we as a district had about 3% that we could allocate towards a cost for a raise. What we ended up doing was a 2.5% COLA increase on steps 1 to 11 and a 3.5% increase on step 12. So over the 3 years, it ended up putting an extra 1.5% on the top step, where we know 52% of the staff are. That is going to help them start to kind of move them a little bit closer. Sorry about that. A little bit closer to the middle. And I'm not worried about the attractiveness piece because steps 1 through 5, it's us in Andover in the Merrimack Valley. You're not going to have someone driving from Ashland to come work in Chelmsford. So I'm more concerned, like geographically, proximity districts when it comes to salary.
Did it create hiring issues for you or retention issues? Were you finding your teachers leaving for higher paying gigs?
We have lost a couple of teachers to some of the bigger districts. So we actually lost 2 teachers to Concord. We're not going to be able to compete with Concord. Concord pays $20,000 higher than we do at top step. That's just something we can't compete with. I don't want to lose a teacher to Merrimack Valley. I don't want to lose a district.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Concord pays $20,000 more per teacher at the upper levels, upper step.
And some of the steps based on degree and years of service and things like that. Yes.
Wow.
We're not going to compete with.
That's Concord taxpayers' issue to deal with.
But I can remember, working with some Concord teachers on a project. We came in, I was an administrator going to Concord, and working with Concord teachers, and we had to put our salaries down. And I'll never forget the teacher looking. I make how much more than you, and and you have all that responsibility. It's been a long. Concord's been that way.
They have
for
the financial wherewithal
time
to be able to do that, but we're not competing with Concord. But I don't want to lose a teacher to Andover. I don't want to lose a teacher to Billerica, Tewksbury, people in our proximity. So by doing that contract,
Mr. Superintendent, isn't it? Teachers will stay if the environment is good.
well, that's we're not losing. Again, aside from that, we're not really losing. But I also want our teachers at the top step to feel valued. I don't want them looking at colleagues in neighboring districts and seeing that they're getting paid more than them. So one of the things that we did work on was to try to get that extra little boost to the top step, because again, we're very attractive when it comes to bringing teachers into the district, really kind of integrating them in the community. I want them to make sure that they are satisfied and feel happy, really to be there in the district in the long term.
Did they feel valued with that last contract negotiation? We said it was 2.5 per year, and then 3.5 for the upper step to kind of
it
get
was a
them
very
in.
good,
And they feel valued by that, right?
Yeah, we worked with them on that. We sat down at a table and really worked that through.
You might be able to see my wheels spinning. I mean, I was told that Lowell teachers needed to get a 4.43 to feel the 2.5. I mean, terrible. Where does Lowell rank in that, by the way? Do you know offhand?
I don't.
Are they comparable to some of these communities, Lowell teachers?
Lowell teachers are very well paid. I just don't have them because they're not one of our comps.
Okay.
But I mean, when we looked at it, because I do look at geographically our neighboring districts, Lowell is also very attractive on the early steps of the grid. Lowell's salary schedule, because I remember working on it when I was here, is a little bit different. So like in Chelmsford, we have 12 steps. You're on step 12 for after 12 years of service for the rest of your career there. Lowell has basically longevity steps in their contract. So after so many years, you get to, let's say, step 10. And then after 15 years of service, you move to 11. After 20 years of service, you move to step 12. So they have these longevity steps, I would call them, in their grid. So when you look at just say top step in Lowell, that might represent 30 or 35 years of service, where a top step in Chelmsford is after 12 years of service. So you have to kind of really dig into the numbers to figure out exactly, what's, kind of apple to apple comparisons. I haven't done that lately.
Besides longevity, what goes into the steps? Certifications, education, trainings. What gets you to start climbing those steps?
So, and this is almost, all teacher salary grids that I've ever seen, it's steps and lanes, right? So you get a step for completing a year of service. So you come in on step 1 after you complete you work over 90 days in a school year. The next year you move to step 2. So those are automatic kind of increments. You also have columns. In the columns of the lanes, that's based on degree. So you might have a bachelor's degree column and then a master's degree column. And after you have a master's degree plus, say, 30 credits, you move to another column. You might have a CAGS or a doctorate. So you can kind of move across the grid. We call those lane changes based on degree, certification, additional education. But the steps happen every year.
Do the communities help fund those educational steps for teachers?
Yeah, most districts actually either have like in-district programs. I know Lowell actually had a program that helps really defer the costs of those additional credits. In Chelmsford, we have a tuition reimbursement program. So if a teacher wants to go take a class, they can apply for tuition reimbursement. So we help teachers do that because we want them to get the very latest and greatest teaching for town.
Alrighty, let's look at some more numbers. We'll take that one off the board and we'll look at, net school spending. This number's been thrown around the city of Lowell a lot over the last couple of months, has it not, Mr. Samaras?
Yes, it is.
You're in the middle of the pack here.
We're in the middle of the pack.
33.6%.
Above net school
above what you're required to spend
correct
by the state. That's a conscious decision by the town government to go that high up.
Well, it is. And I think if you look at that chart, it doesn't surprise me that Newton is 80% above. They're almost spending twice what the state is spending. Now, again, the state number for net school spending is what they're saying the minimum is to adequately educate a child. And then you have to have the whole discussion about what is an adequate education. There's been legislation and lawsuits about this. But what I look for in this one is you don't want to be close to just hitting the 100%. There are very few districts that actually hit just the 100% mark. I don't pay too much attention to the above net school spending. As long as we're in the middle of the pack spending wise, that's what I'm looking for. As a community, if we spent, if times got tough and we had to spend $500,000 less or $1 million more, again, your number's not going to vary significantly, but we're spending a third more technically than the state is saying that we have to provide education to our students in town.
But you're well above the state average. You're almost 7.5 percentage points above the state average.
Yes.
Which is right below you.
Correct.
How much of that is cash and how much is maintenance of effort?
Yeah, I
I keep learning all these new terms.
I should have known you were going to ask me this. And again, just because we're so far above, it's not something I really have to watch to the level I had to when I was in Lowell. I don't. I'll have to find out for you, Teddy, and I'm happy to email you on that one. The town contributes a significant financial portion to our budget. We don't actually receive a significant amount of Chapter 70 aid. So I do have a number that's fresh off my mind, last year's budget. We needed approximately a $3 million increase to cover our contract costs. We had a contract that was in place, our regular increases to our small little contracts for services and things along those lines. And we received about $300,000, $350,000 from the state in Chapter 70. So the town ended up paying the extra $2.65 million to support us in direct cash. So, I mean, that's kind of the level and the commitment that Chelmsford has to funding its education. Where you're seeing just significant more cash going into the schools because we're not receiving the state aid that urban communities are. Their maintenance of effort numbers or their non-cash contribution is largely work that they do to fix the schools, DPW, repair people, things along those lines. It's all backed up. I don't have any issue with any of the charges that they submit for net school spending.
Who owns the buildings in Chelmsford? Is it the schools?
The town.
No. So it's similar arrangement to all the town owns.
Yep.
So I would imagine there's a significant number of maintenance of effort, right?
Oh,
Or percentage wise, it should be similar to other communities.
It's millions. I just don't have the exact number off the top of my head because again, I just don't have to look at it that closely because we're so far above.
Is that number also inflated based on, well, I should say inflated high? I'm just theorizing it based on the age of your school buildings, which we're going to talk about a little bit when we talk about the school projects you have coming on. But, but when Paul Cohen tells us that your high school is your youngest building, your newest building in your system, and that opened in 1974, that's half a century ago. Right. So I would imagine you've got a ton of maintenance and upkeep needed. Although it's interesting, we don't hear the complaints, Mr. Samaras in Chelmsford. I certainly don't about air conditioning, HVAC, quality of air, all the stuff that you hear from the Lowell schools.
Because of the age of our buildings, we don't have air conditioning, so that's why you're not hearing about it. So we have air conditioning at Center Elementary School, and aside from that, there might be the office or like the library area may have air conditioning, but we don't have air conditioning throughout the other buildings.
So the high school doesn't have?
No, like they have air conditioning in the core, in the office space, and the student library, but classrooms don't have air conditioning.
Oh my, the Lowell teachers would lose their mind over that. What would they do?
But it's age of building. We don't actually probably have the power that would be required to even add something like that now. So that's why a new building, we'll talk about it later, is important to us. But the town DPW does a very nice job of maintaining the schools. They have a good fleet of plumbers and electricians and tradespeople. They contract for outside backup and assistance for some of the more high-tech systems that need to be run. We have a very good facilities department in the schools that really keep the buildings looking great. We contract with cleaners to come in the evening and do deep cleans of our buildings. So we really actually have that down pretty well.
You have your own facilities department for the schools?
Yes.
There isn't a joint one?
No, so our facilities department is cleaning. So we have a director of facilities who works hand in hand with me on bigger projects and things. And we employ a custodian in each of our schools for the day shift. And then we contract out the cleaning at night to different cleaning companies that come in and do the work. DPW are the ones that handle the bulk of the repairs in the buildings to the system type stuff. We don't do the system type work.
Okay. How much would you estimate that having, or let me start with this. Why the overnight people contracted as opposed to staffers? Got to be a financial savings there, right?
More economical. When I arrived in Chelmsford, they had actually contracted out the entire system to Aramark at the time, was the person or the company that they were working with, and the quality just wasn't what we wanted it to be in the schools. So we implemented kind of a hybrid model where I wanted to make sure that we were employing an employee of ours that was working under our direction in each of the buildings during the day. But if we were to actually hire the cleaning crew in the evening time, just the post-employment benefit costs, the salaries and things like that were too great.
And I think safety of students too. I mean, where Mark would have people coming in,
Well, you have more control, but even like the night cleaners, I want to make sure that we have someone who these contractors are reporting to that work for us and have allegiance to us, as opposed to someone from the outside. So this hybrid system that we have has worked very well. The cleaning companies we've had have done a great job. They come in, they keep the buildings in very good shape. Our custodian kind of serves as an intermediary with our building person during the day. If there's any issues that need to be remedied, that happens, but we have that done pretty well.
Politically, that caused you some headaches, though, right?
No.
In the beginning, when you first made the change, or
No, so the headaches were really around the Aramark contract, and no one was happy with the level of cleanliness that was happening.
It'd be the other way.
They went from completely being outsourced to at least now we have some employees in the district and some is contracted. So no, people are very generally happy with that.
He wasn't eliminating positions. He actually added.
I remember there were folks that were upset about the quality and whatnot.
Yeah, the quality
the
was
timing was
tough.
once you made the switch, a lot of that went away.
Yeah, people have been very happy with that.
Are there people pushing to do the overnight thing as well, or
I think people are content, and I think there is a true cost you have to look at if we were to bring everything in oversight in-house, oversight as well on that second shift. So what we have now in place is really working well.
All right, one more little chart I have here. Thank you for, by the way, indulging my curiosity.
Sure.
If I'm going to be sending my kids there eventually, I like to know these things. The per pupil expenditures.
Yep. So this is, again, one, we're kind of in the bottom third of districts here, and this just directly relates to, our, say, average teacher salaries, some of the other costs. This isn't surprising to me in any way. But again, for me, the net school spending number is the bigger driver that I want to look for. I want to make sure we're in the middle of the pack on that one. We have pretty consistently been under what the average state is, because you can see the state was third from the top on that one. But in town, I do have to say, I think Chelmsford spends a fair portion of its funding for schools. It is one of the three priorities of the town manager, and I know the select board and the school committee are on board with this as well. I think we're fairly funded in the schools. I think we offer excellent programs. We have consistent, stable staff. I'm very happy with our level of funding at this point and what we're able to provide with it.
All right. And it should also note that a lot of these numbers are fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2024 numbers.
Right.
As you've said, you've taken some steps to address some of those. You
we
understand
definitely
where
were
you're in
trying
the
to
bottom
move towards
third,
the middle on most of them. And unfortunately, everything is usually a year or two delayed because all of your financials have to be audited before the state will put them up on the website.
All right. School buildings. You're facing a decision. You're in the MSBA process right now, and you're looking at it. Was it 3 different choices for a new school and how to best set it up? What are those options, and what's your preferred choice?
So we ended up trying, actually, we do need to do some new building in town. As you mentioned earlier, the high school is our newest building, and it's over 50 years old. Our other elementary and middle schools date back to the 50s and 60s, so you're talking 70 plus years old. I think the time is right to build a new school. And again, we're also confronted with the enrollment issues coming on the horizon. The increased enrollment at the elementary level, we can see them coming up through middle school. The only school that truly has capacity is the high school. So the time was right for a building project. In 2003, we submitted for a potential new middle school. So we had to identify one of the 2 middle schools for consideration, and we elected Parker because we felt like we could make a more compelling argument if Parker were the school that ultimately was approved. The MSBA invited us into an eligibility period, and we just completed the different 8 steps that are required for that last December. In December, they also then invited us to do a full feasibility study. And the three options that we can look at is a new Parker, which is currently grades 5 and 6 for the whole town, just a 1-for-1 replacement. The second option is to do a grade 4, 5, 6 middle school. What that would allow us to do is take grades 4 out of the elementary school into this new building. So everyone in town benefits from a new 4, 5, 6. It frees up 100 to 110 spaces at each of our current elementary schools, because I'm trying to think long term. We've got to phase this new construction, and we can't do a new middle school and then a new elementary school and another elementary school just because of the money that's involved. But that would allow us another 10 or 20 years use of the existing elementary schools by doing that. And again, everyone grade 4, 5, and 6 benefits. That's the middle option. The third option that they're allowing us to look at is a combined kind of mega middle school, I'm calling it. So bringing 5 through 8 back under one umbrella. It would be a very large 1,800 middle school. Parker would come offline, but then McCarthy could be used as a 5th elementary school or 5th swing space if we wanted to reconfigure. We don't know what the numbers are going to be, but I can tell you that's going to be the most expensive. The 3 grade level school is going to be the mid-range project, and the 1-for-1 replacement is going to be the cheapest project. I don't, in the end, we have to go through all the work. I don't think the top end option with the middle school is going to be super attractive financially. I also think operationally, an 1,800 middle school would be bigger than our high school.
Very difficult to
Difficult to
operate.
manage, you know,
Yeah.
it's just a different age and things like that of students. So I'm not thinking that one's ultimately going to have legs, but we got to see. The middle range option is the one that I think I'm more preferential to, because it helps with our enrollment needs at the elementary and middle school level, and it's a mid-range cost. The 1-for-1 replacement would be a great new middle school for grades 5 and 6. I'd have no problem with that, but it doesn't do anything to help us with the elementary enrollment. So that would then have to be the next discussion.
How's that decision going to be made? Is that going to ultimately be a school department decision, a city decision? It's not going to have to go to a ballot question?
Ultimately, it's going to be a ballot question, but there is a working group right now, a kind of a capital committee that's working on this building committee project. It's got town reps, it's got school reps on it. We just hired an OPM for the project, so left field is going to be our OPM.
Not Skanska?
No, not Skanska. We had we received 6.
Not go there.
We received 6 designer applications just this past week. So we're going to be picking a designer for the project in early September. And then we're going to spend next school year working with the community, not only people in the schools, because other residents need to be part of this process too. But we're going to have resident involvement, school involvement, teaching staff, parents, and figure out by the end of next June which of the 3 options we want to advance. To then in the fall of 26, give the architect and the OPM the charge of basically putting the schematic designs together, because in spring of 27, we would ultimately need some type of a debt exclusion or an override vote of the town to support it. So I would say by next fall, this time we'll be kind of honing in on which option we want. And then by the spring of 27, we'll actually have a number tied to it, and we'll be looking for community input. For community support.
Okay. Your option 2, well, I don't know if that's how they're numbered, but we'll call it that for right now. Option 2, the middle one,
Right.
That's your preferred choice. Would the Parker School would stay open in that one?
No, so the Parker comes offline
Either
under
way,
anyone.
under anyone. Okay.
Any of the 3, the Parker has to come offline.
What's going to happen with that? Is that building getting torn down, or will there be another use for it?
There's no, so if you do a building with the MSBA, the old building has to come down.
It has to come
Yeah.
down.
So what we would likely do is build on the property adjacent, and then knock the Parker down to make that the field space.
Gotcha.
So you eat the field space for the new building, but then you create the field space when the building construction is done.
Okay. Well, won't it be kind of awkward though that that school will have air conditioning? and HVAC,
Well,
but your high school, which
I
is
know,
quote
but-
unquote your signature school, I just find that interesting in this day and age. But,
Yeah, it is, but I mean that's I think what's going to happen. I think in the years to come, you're going to see new construction in the Northeast is obviously going to have air conditioning. We just don't have it right now in the other buildings. We're not. Yeah, it's not unique. Most school districts up this way don't have air conditioning in their buildings unless they're newer buildings.
I certainly dn't have it when I went, but I figure
didn't either.
nowadays it was pretty standard. I guess maybe those Lowell kids are spoiled after all, right, Mr. Samaras? Hopefully, no neighborhood opposition to your plans on any of these 3, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's what we're going to have to wait and see. I don't think there'd be neighborhood opposition to the location because there's already a school.
Schools are already there,
So
right?
I don't see that being an issue. People are going to weigh in on which option they prefer. They're going to have questions about the financing of the project that I expect. Some may also have questions about, the grade level appropriateness of, say, grades 4, 5, and 6 being together. Personally, developmentally, I think it's a great range for kids, and curriculum-wise, it lines up with everything that we're doing. Families were actually very happy 2 years ago when we split the middle schools and we went with a dedicated 5, 6 and a dedicated 7, 8. And I wanted to do that before we even got into the MSBA project because I didn't want that to be a lingering question as we're trying to get support for the new building. I didn't want that to kind of muddy the town-wide discussion and have some people who either liked it or didn't like it have any kind of impact on the final vote. So we got that out of the way and it's gone very well.
How much will the MSBA pick up?
So we're at approximately 52% is what's reimbursable on the approved reimbursable costs. I don't know what's going to be not reimbursable or anything. We got to get into that, but we're doing a accelerated repair program with them right now, a new roof at South Row School, and our reimbursement rate is 52%.
Okay, because as we learned with the Low High project, we were talking about 80% reimbursement. I think what did we get to about 60 something?
Well, it's only
It's never.
they only
never-
reimburse you based on the eligible costs,
Right.
And so you do have some things that are going to be ineligible. We don't know what those are going to be yet, but our base reimbursement rate's the 52%.
All right. I know former mayor, former headmaster Samaras had some questions about education in general. Like I'm blessed to have two career educators sitting here, so I'm going to step back and kind of let you talk about
that's fine.
education.
But the issue I have is COVID has changed the world as we know it. Okay, and you also have artificial intelligence coming in that no one knows at this point what true effect it will have. But as a leader in the educational program, do you see any change coming now, or do you see it? How do you see education? I mean,
Sure.
give us, we'll say, this is where we are now, but this is what I see possibly happening.
I mean, prior to COVID, as a district, we had invested quite a lot in technology. So, we have our classrooms are pretty well equipped with state-of-the-art technology. We have the, interactive TVs and the boards that the teachers are now using in their instruction. We had started to move to be a one-on-one district. So as a district, we actually provide every child, a laptop, grades 5 to 12, so that they can bring home with them, do their schoolwork, because we're starting to see a lot more of that. We were very fortunate with the timing of that rollout. It happened right before COVID. And obviously when COVID hit and we went home, our kids were already equipped with laptops and, everyone has the same device. So it also takes away the you haves and the have not type argument. So that's worked well. Our tech people like it because they can troubleshoot. Everyone's got the same device. It's not hard to figure out how to manage different things. We're a Google district, so everything is basically done through Google. And when we went through COVID, I think one of the things it did, even for our teaching staff, you always have some staff that are like, your early onset people who want to get the new technology and jump and start using it. You have some that are a little bit more resistant or a little reticent because they're just not quite comfortable with it. You didn't have that option with COVID. Everyone was at home and we were doing online learning. So everyone kind of jumped in. We started using Google Classrooms. And what we're seeing now is, even though we're back from COVID, people didn't just shut their classrooms off. They found what really worked well for them as a good medium to be able to store materials, work with kids. So we're actually kind of taking those next steps to just have them be more ingrained and just part of the regular instruction in the schools. As you know, from being the headmaster and working in education, the kids are always a step ahead of us when different apps or devices and things like that come out. AI obviously is a new thing that we're learning about. So, we actually have some AI experts coming to our version of like summer leadership. We have a little retreat with our admin who are going to learn some of the ways that AI can actually help them in their jobs, but to try to get some sight of what kids are actually doing with AI. It's in our classrooms. Kids are using it. And I do think we're at the point where you can't just say, we're not going to use some of these things, but how do we help kids properly use them? How do we educate them to use them effectively? Because you're going to use AI in life. You're going to use AI in work. So let's actually just train them around how to properly use the technology. But we got to make sure that our staff kind of stay one step ahead. Our staff have been phenomenal when it comes to adopting new technologies, trying new things. I think as a district, we've been very supportive. People are going to make mistakes, and that's fine. We'll help you through it. But we've been very open to it, and I definitely think that's the way to move forward.
Financially, can you keep up with it?
We can. It's a priority for us.
Okay.
So one of the things that we actually do, we spend a good chunk of our operating budget on networking, making sure the
Okay.
infrastructure is solid. We do apply for E-rate funding. We don't get the level of some other communities, but we apply for E-rate funding to upgrade networks in our buildings and things. We do allow and accept some school choice students into the district. We take about 10 or 12 students each year at the high school level because I have space for that. With the students comes some funding. So the school committee has, we recommended and they obviously endorsed, we utilize school choice funding because that's like extra money that the school committee gets to actually pay for the leases of the one-on-one laptops that we give the kids. So it actually doesn't really have an impact on the local operating budget. We're using that revenue from school choice to offset the cost of the one-on-one initiative. And that's been welcomed. And town meeting has been supportive of that because it's not like I'm coming to them with another ask. But that is a continual revenue source that we have, and we've earmarked that to pay for technology.
Yeah.
So I think we've really kind of thought this through, and we've been very deliberate in what we've done. We make sure that these different initiatives line up with our strategic plan of the district, and that we're all kind of working in the same direction. But technology is
Well, that's
is
good
in
to hear
schools and
because
is where it's going.
it's not a simple question to ask because too many people are working on the survival mode. You know, what do I do today to survive? That's not the way to do it. I mean,
Yeah, AI certainly
he's outlined
going to be a
proper
game
way.
changer. Is it going to have to change educational priorities? It just kind of seems like where we're going is from a job force, and what you're going to need to survive in terms of careers is either you're going to have to get some kind of a skill / trade that will always be in need, AI or no AI, or some kind of STEM where AI, robotics, and all this stuff is the end all be all. Do you see that you're going to have to eliminate some of the, what I call liberal arts stuff? Will that have to be de-emphasized a little bit to allow for more STEM time?
I don't think so because, again, what's going to be after AI? Like we don't know what the next thing is going to be coming down the line. Like we didn't know AI was coming. So there's always going to be something there. I think we really kind of pride ourselves in providing a great foundation of learning for students. So we want them to be well-rounded. They need to be good readers. They need to be mathematical thinkers. They have to be able to work with others. You know, we need to make sure that they have good interpersonal skills and can connect because you're always, no matter what you're going to do in life, whether it's work or recreation or whatnot, you have to have people skills and you have to be able to work as a team and, critically think about a problem that's before you. Today, we might use AI to solve it. Tomorrow we might use something else to solve it. But if you have those skills and kids are, they have the persistence to keep trying things and the adaptability to be able to see what is the newest and latest, greatest technology that's going to help them in work or home or life. I think that's what's critical.
Do you see a scenario where AI could replace some of the functions of educators?
I don't think it's going to replace. I think it could augment and it could certainly help.
Support,
Yeah, but we have, there are different like complementary curriculum packages that we have now where we know if we have students who are maybe have a deficit in a particular area, there's a domain that they're struggling with, we can actually put our test results that we receive from one of our diagnostics, say, into a system. I'm sure the system is actually using AI or some type of a compilation database behind the scenes to tell us, all right, Bill's having trouble with this particular domain. Teddy is as well. So as a teacher, when you're doing your instructional grouping, put Bill and Teddy together, and then this is what they need for a lesson. Oh, and wait a second, here's the lesson. So the software can actually generate an extra lesson for the kids to kind of help remediate and get them up to speed. I don't think anything is ever going to replace the teacher as kind of the person who needs to be the conductor in the class. But I think what the teachers are going to do is learn how to use all these different resources to really target individual kids and individual needs and just help with the efficiency and making sure that those follow-up supports are there.
Okay. What's your cell phone policy in schools, and how does that play off of the state effort?
I said you wanted to call me. So we talked about that last night at our school committee meeting. We did a quick survey. So right now, cell phones are not a huge issue at the elementary level in the district. What's an issue at the elementary level in the district is smartwatches. So a lot of parents are sending their kids to school with like a smartwatch, instead of a cell phone at the elementary school level. Partly, I think, so that they can kind of track them
Track the
and know
kid,
where they
yeah.
are. But it actually happens during the school day. Like the kids and the parents will text each other and disturb each other, and it's a disturbance for the whole class. So that's something we're dealing with at the elementary level. At the middle school grade level, 5 through 8, pretty consistently, you can have a phone. It needs to be shut off, and it needs to be in your bag or in your locker. It's not out during the school day. At the high school, it's a little bit more challenging. It's supposed to be off and either in like a phone holder in the classroom or off in your bag so no one sees it. And that's something that obviously we're always kind of confronting and dealing with. We're going to try to work on consistency in implementation on whatever policy we have so that it's at least consistent and it's consistently enforced teacher to teacher, school to school throughout the school system. There's legislation pending right now from the Attorney General to actually talk about like a bell-to-bell ban on cell phones in schools. I don't want to get too far ahead as a community of that initiative. It's already kind of made its way through the House. It's now getting into the Senate. I think it's going to be a fast-tracked bill. And I don't want to put a lot of emphasis or energy on creating a policy which this law could potentially derail. So we're watching. And then reacting.
And that was going to be my follow-up there.
Wait and see.
I guess it would make it easier because last year Lowell had a big battle over the cell phone ban in the high school, and I kept thinking, well, if the state would just step in, communities like Lowell wouldn't have to have this little internal battle. That said, when the state creates one, they're going to create one across the board, and perhaps the policy may not work as well for Chelmsford as it does for Lowell, and vice versa. So would you like to have some control of it? At least now you have control over it, right? When the state jumps in, you're now at their mercy, and there may be things that you don't like and won't work well for Chelmsford.
Right. I think we'll have to wait and see what the actual law is. I am assuming that there's going to be some implication on local school districts to implement a policy that meets X, Y, and Z. But there's going to be some play within communities as to what X, Y, and Z means so that we can actually talk about from the teachers and the parents, what do we want this to look like in our community? I don't think there's a lot of disagreement around the notion that, cell phones should not be out or on during instructional time, right? But what does that mean? Do they need to just be off and in a bag? Do they need to be in a holder? There are some districts that have used like those yonder pouches where you have to actually check in your phone each day.
I think it'll be tight. It'll be a tighter policy.
Yeah, I think you're going to have less room, I guess, to negotiate. But as a community, I hope we have some input. But I just don't know where it's going yet. And I don't want to get too far ahead of it and then have to backtrack, because I think that's when it can get confusing for families.
Where will the bigger battle lie, or where does it currently lie, with the students or the parents? What surprised me in Lowell is how many adults were like, I need to be able to get in touch with my kid, when they were probably like me and they went to school in an era where there was no cell phone, and damn it, we were all fine.
Right. I truly don't know. Again, that's why we did the survey. We surveyed our staff. We surveyed our parents. We had about 2,000 responses to the parent survey, which is good. That's a good number of respondents. On the teacher,
actually unusual.
What's that?
That's
not in
unusual.
Chelmsford.
Okay.
The parent buy-in is there, and the participation levels are there.
Interesting to know.
Yeah, no. So they gave us very good feedback, and I'm going to actually I'll email it to you as well. But I'm going to email out the results to everyone because we're compiling it. We're going to work with a professor out of BU who has kind of made this her kind of focal point, a work around adolescents' access to cell phones and social media, how it impacts school day. So we're going to spend a little bit of time this fall kind of talking about it, and I'm hoping by the time we're ready as a community to figure out what we want to do, we'll know more from the legislature with regard to what they're going to do.
Your name always comes up whenever Lowell is searching for a new superintendent. You came pretty close to being Lowell's superintendent back in, what year was that, 2017? 2018?
15.
Okay, was it that long ago now? Okay.
Years, yeah.
You always say to me, I'm very happy where I am. I'm cutting you off, but
I'm very happy.
Are you at the point now where it's not even a thing? I'm going to guess there was a time where you would have liked to have come back.
Well, I don't know, come back. I mean, obviously I would have liked the job when I applied for it. That was the time I was looking for it, but I have had such a good experience in Chelmsford. I do not see myself leaving Chelmsford. They've been very good to me. I think I'm not just saying this, but like our vision is kind of aligned. I have a very supportive school committee. We're kind of working hand in hand on our initiatives and the schools. It's a great community.
But that's the way it's supposed to be.
but
It seems a lot less political than Lowell, at least on the outside. Is that correct?
no,
Is there a lot of politicking that has to be done behind the scenes?
It's not. It's actually just more work. It's like you're going to work. And no, I love the community. I truly don't see myself leaving. They gave me a very good contract this last time out. So I don't see myself leaving. I really don't. I see myself ending in Chelmsford.
So you were disappointed back in 2015, naturally, when you didn't get
Sure.
that fourth vote. Do you look back now and say, thank God, when you've seen what's transpired? Chances are you would not be the Lowell school superintendent today, right?
No, I mean, a superintendent or city manager, Lowell certainly kind of seemed to have their shelf life. I can't say that 10 years later, I'd still be the superintendent in Lowell. Obviously, I wanted it at the time, or I wouldn't have gone for the job. In hindsight, it was probably a blessing for me professionally and personally to have the opportunity to go to a neighboring community and really make an impact. I've been able to work on things like I love a school building project. So to be able to do that and hopefully do a successful one in town would be a great way for me to kind of cap off my career. The community's been welcoming, accepting. Anytime you need something, you reach out to a parent group. The PTOs are very active. There's a townwide group. Police, fire, town manager has been great. I truly don't have a negative thing to say. I see myself finishing out there.
How much longer do you see yourself doing this?
A lot is going to depend on this new school project, because if all goes well, I really do want to see that through. It would potentially open in the 30-31 school year. So I have at least another 5 years.
Right. I was just as somebody who's got a kid going into third grade in kindergarten, and as I said, eventually will transfer over. I'd like to know. I want to end on a good note. Baseball team.
Yes.
State champion baseball team.
Unbelievable.
Want to just get your thoughts on that. School sports in particular, the sense of pride that brings to a community and the way a community rallies around, a team that goes deep into the championship run, but then to actually pull it off for the first time in how long was it?
Ever. I think it was like the high school. It was over 50 years, I think, that they had done it. Tremendous run that they went on this spring. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I'm sure that's what you're looking for. Yeah. You don't know if it's going to happen, but I was not able to go to the last game in Worcester, but I was able to go to the game at LaLasha Park when they won the semifinal. The showing, the turnout of the Chelmsford community to support that team was phenomenal. They were in the parade this year. The Chelmsford parade's a big thing. They were in the parade this year. They had their own float. But I got to tell you, so the baseball team obviously had a great year. Different sports teams across the board. They're always making and competing in the States. But one of the nice things about Chelmsford is, as much as the community comes out to support, the athletes in town, they're there to support the kids who are in the musicals, who are in the theater program, who are in the, band is huge. Band, performing music and things like that is very big out there. And the athletes come to the shows to support the kids who are in the shows. The kids who are in the shows come to support the athletes. It's truly a sense of community that you don't see in a lot of places. But no, I was thrilled for the baseball team. They had a phenomenal year. Great group of seniors overall. And very proud to be the superintendent.
All right. Jay Lang, Chelmsford School Superintendent. Long overdue to come on in here.
Yeah.
But we got to bring you back. What's the next key date on the school building project?
Early September. So early September, we'll have a designer on board.
All right, so we'll have to connect between then and whatever. Plus, you keep him at bay.
Yeah.
And look, we didn't even dump on you about that high school in Lowell.
Well, there's always next time.
You know
Teddy.
what?
So when I come back in September,
When you come back, okay,
we can have a talk about
we're
it.
going to have you coordinate a little discussion between Teddy and I. How's that?
Be a mediator?
Yeah.
You can sit in this chair. I'll go sit over there. I've always wanted to sit in that chair. They never let me sit in that chair.
All right, we'll make it happen.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you as well to Mayor Samaras. Appreciate you dealing with me every Wednesday.
He likes to leave me. Okay, what should I say now? I mean, what do I do
You'll be
now?
fine. You'll be fine.
Well, I mean, hopefully his schools won't have the overruns that not just Lowell, other communities are having as well. That's a common
overruns?
theme. Yeah, cost overruns everywhere.
Okay.
School construction is complicated. It is very complicated.
It certainly is. All right. Thank you. Thank you to Superintendent Lang. Thanks to Mayor Samaras. Thank you for tuning in here to the Daily Pulse, the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of Lowell, Greater Lowell, and of course, the world around it. Tomorrow, Danielle McFadden's going to step back into the host seat. I got some things I need to do. She is bringing one of the acts performing at the Lowell Folk Festival. They're going to be right in here in the Wellpoint Studios, and they will play a few numbers for you as well. And of course, on Friday, I'll be back with the Pod Squad, Batch and Michaela. We're going to give you the insider's guide to the Lowell Folk Festival. There is, of course, the official Lowell Folk Festival, and then there's the, after hours Lowell Folk Festival and some of the little tricks of the trades that folks have learned through the years. So make sure you tune in for that. The Daily Pulse. Glad you were with us today. Enjoy your day. We'll catch you on the other side.